All right, so I'm gonna go over an idea to create more reliable fat loss. Okay, this idea comes from a framework that I learned from my mentor Nick Peterson, and it applies to any system. The idea is called system reliability, and what this means is the reliability of any system to give you an outcome that is desired is dependent on the different components or pieces of that system. So if a system has, you know, three components and two of them are 100% reliable and the third one is 50% reliable, you multiply them across to give you 1 times 1 times 50. You get a system reliability of 50%. So 50% of the time you will get the desired outcome. So the idea with this, right, is I want as few components as possible, and I want to increase the lower components as high as I can to get a higher percent reliability. Okay, so if if we have if we look at fat loss through this lens, okay, the three, if we break down our system, and remember the outcome we're looking for here is fat loss. Okay, the three main components as I see them for getting fat loss are training, food or nutrition, and behavior. Okay, now depending on what kind of training you're doing and how easy and practical you have made it for yourself, your training could be 70 to 95% reliable, right? And so if I was just looking at it like, I made it, let's say, really good strength training. Like if you were working with me in my gym and I'm coaching you, we are going to assume that the reliability of that component is, let's say, 95%. If you're just doing general strength training, let's say it's 90%. Let's say you don't have a coach, it drops. But my point is, that's, I just, as long as you're doing something, I would rate that part of the system at 70 to 95%, right? The second part is food. And now this, I'm assuming 95 to 99%. If you are following the laws of physics, okay, calories, thermodynamics, okay, and this is just fancy way to say that, the body is made up of atoms, okay, and we measure atoms as calories for our purposes of food. And if you follow those rules, meaning you consume less than what you use every day, that's a 95 to 95% reliable component, okay? And the real wild card here, okay, is going to be behavior. And that's what we're going to take a look at, okay? And I break down food over here into what I call the friction index, okay? So when I was looking at this, and I was talking with some clients, and I was like thinking to myself, I've talked about the food enjoyment matrix. If you haven't seen those videos, go check them out. Food enjoyment matrix is just, the lens that we look at food through is enjoyment, high to low, and then calorie density, okay, high to low. And if we were to draw let's see if I have a picture over here. I don't. If we were to draw, maybe I pulled up. I know it's here somewhere. Well, regardless, if we were to look at any food, we would want to see. We want to pick foods that are high in enjoyment and low in calorie density. That's what I call quadrant one foods. Okay, that's the top left of that graph. And if I am eating foods that I really enjoy and that are inherently low calorie density, I will lose fat. I will lose fat 100% of the time. Okay, now. The second part, the second framework that I look at food with is the four lenses of fat loss. And what are the four lenses of fat loss? And by that I mean, and also this is another idea adapted from concepts and frameworks that I've learned from Nick, which again you can apply to various different areas of life. If you're hitting these four lenses of fat loss, you will lose fat. Okay, so the four lenses of fat loss, the first two are, it has to be high in enjoyment, it has to be low in calorie density, right? That's quadrant one. Number three, it has to be convenient, meaning it has to be quick and easy to make, prepare, and clean, right? Make, prepare, transport, clean. And then the last piece of the four lenses of fat loss is it has to be easy to track. Okay, the more difficult you make the tracking part of this whole thing, the harder it is for you to actually know what's happening, and the harder it is for you to actually track it. Whereas if you're eating, let's say, chicken breast and rice, that's very easy to track. It's two ingredients, right? So we want to keep things easy to track. So those are the four lenses of fat loss. Now, as far as the food component of the fat loss reliability goes, I break that down a little bit further into what I call the friction index. Okay. And as you can see right here, this is again tying in all those different pieces. So when I'm looking at food, I want high enjoyment. I want low friction. That means I don't want things to be difficult. Okay. So what would be a high friction way to eat? You're having very complicated recipes that take a long time, have a ton of ingredients, require a whole bunch of prep. Now, that's a lot of friction. What happens when you have a lot of friction is if you're, really busy, you got a lot of work stuff and family stuff, the more friction you have in hitting your targets as far as calories and, macronutrients go, the less likely that you're going to get what you want, right? The easier you can make it to hit your targets, the lower the friction, and the easier it is to hit your targets no matter what's going on. And that's what I want. When I have low friction, okay, and I have high enjoyment, low calorie density, high protein, I have effortless fat loss that can adapt to any situation, okay? When you have too much friction, okay, you have a bad day, you're not going to do this complicated thing and I'll give you another example of high friction things. Meal prep. Meal prep is not easy for most people, and when they go about, I got to make, 10 meals and I got to cook, it's going to take me 2 hours, that's a lot of friction. How can you reduce that friction? A protein shake. You can buy one at the store. That is super low friction. Even lower friction. Let's say you don't have, let's say you're going to be working from home and you don't have time to do whatever. You could say, I'm going to go to the store and blah, blah, blah. Or low friction, You could order a bag or a tub of protein and have it at your house. Low friction. Okay. Other things that increase or decrease friction include, like, okay, maybe you don't have a little blender that can blend up your protein really quick. Well, and you got to mix it with a spoon. Just that one extra piece might increase the friction for you. Okay. And so this is very, very important to understand. All right. Now, I'm going to zoom back out here. Let's say you understand this. Okay. And this is all good. All right. Let's say you're training with me, just to keep things simple. You're in the gym with me training, so you don't got to worry about anything. We're getting world-class strength training, right? We're going to say that's 95%, and we're going to say you're dialing in your food, you're already at 95%, right? So far, 95% times 95%, you have a 90% chance of getting the fat loss that you're looking for. But there's a third component here. This is the wild card, and that is human behavior. What does that depend on? For this, we go into the realm of psychology, okay? The question I ask here is, how well is the human taken care of? To make this simple, and by the way, so this is, I'm organizing these ideas to make them simpler and simpler. So this is the first video I'm actually making on this idea. And so, we'll come back and refine this and make it easier to understand, make it easier to apply. But stick with me for now. Are you well taken care of? What does that mean? Okay, because if you are not well taken care of emotionally, you are less likely to do the actions that are required. Okay, and so what does that look like? So that means, and the most, by the way, and Nick always says this, the most unreliable component of any system is the human behavior part, right? So that means you might have the perfect program, you might have the perfect diet, and you understand all that. But if you're not able to navigate the emotions that a human goes through and the stresses and things that you might go through, your probability or your percentage of actually being able to do those things and act on those things might be 50%. It might be 25%. So I'll give you some examples of that. Like, let's say work is really stressful and your boss is giving you all this work, you had to sit through traffic, and your reaction to these things are frustration, anger, maybe you didn't take care of something on time and now you got late fees and blah, blah, blah. And you're even more frustrated, and then you feel shame or guilt. And then you're telling yourself, I should have done this. All these things are making you feel worse and worse. And you're tanking your behavior component because you're not well taken care of. And we've all gone through this. How many times have you had a really rough day and you had all these plans to work out and make your food, and you just had a very stressful day, everything went wrong? How likely are you to go home and do those things? How likely are you to work out? Or are you more likely to sit down, maybe have a drink, have some beer, eat whatever's there? Maybe your family ordered pizza, eat a bunch of pizza, and watch Netflix. More likely, right? Now, how do you make sure the human is well taken care of? And I have a couple of things that I always talk about here, which is, I don't think it's in here, but the 3 E's of the strength method. The second E is equanimity, which is evenness of temper. Okay, evenness of temper. Never getting too high, never getting too low. This is So important. Mental calmness, composure, evenness, temper, even in a difficult situation, especially in a difficult situation. People who do not have equanimity they get low when things go wrong and they can get high when things go well, but somebody who gets super high is more likely to go super low when anything changes, right? So this was why equanimity was one of the 3 E's. The other 2 E's, if you're curious, are excellence, which is like your compass, which is what your desires are, right? And enthusiasm. Okay. Now we go a little bit deeper into the realm of, let's see if this sharpens up or not, but psychology. And we'll take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay. The most important needs that we have are physiological needs, right? Air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing. Okay. Then, on top of that, we have our safety needs: personal security, employment, resources, health, property, right? Money, so on and so forth. Then, love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. Then we have esteem, right? Respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, for strength, freedom. And then finally we have self-actualization. What this tells us is the bottom of the pyramid, the foundation, is physiological and safety needs. You cannot work on any of these things up here unless these are met, okay? And a lot of times, this one is taken care of for most people. If you're watching this is probably taken care of, right? We all have access to water, food, shelter, so on and so forth. Now, the place that really adds a lot of stress and where most of us, have some struggle with is safety needs. And primarily in today's world, if you're watching this video, it's probably going to be related to financial in some way, which is why I put this here. The hierarchy of financial needs. Let's see if we can find a better one. All right. Yeah, so then we can break down the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the general one, into the financial hierarchy of needs, okay? And it's the same thing. The base of the pyramid is cash flow, financial safety, accumulating wealth, financial freedom, and then legacy. You can't work on any of these up here if these are not taken care of, right? So somebody who is constantly struggling with money is going to have a tough time with thinking about any of this. And remember, since this piece right here is actually down here at the second layer of the pyramid, and a lot of people have trouble with this, okay, no one's up here, right? No one is able to, and this is why a lot of people struggle, is because they're trying to lose fat, they're trying to do this. These things are more up here, right? And what this tells me, right, the way that I look at this is like, this is not necessary to live, right? These are nice to haves. They add enjoyment to life. And so when we want something that's up here, but we are missing this major foundational part of the hierarchy of needs, okay, it's going to affect your ability to act. Meaning, it's going to tank this component of your fat loss system reliability. And so if this is starting to make sense, like even when people look at, the friction index up here in the food, they look at the food enjoyment matrix, they look at, the four lenses of fat loss, and it makes sense to them, and calorie counting, and all that makes sense to them, and they're training and they're being consistent. But something is up here, something is going on in the human psychology part. Their ability to act goes down. And so it doesn't matter what this is up here if this is at 50%. Because anything goes wrong or throws you off, you this percentage goes down. So even if this was 100%, and now you're at 40% because you had a bad day, your total system reliability is 40%. So what I want to focus on is really the human behavior component. And so how do I do that? This video is getting a little bit long already, but first, it's so important to understand this, because if I can understand this, then I am increasing the most unreliable piece of the component. If I can take that 40% and bump it to 70%, 80%, right? Even if I have, let's say, 80% up here, 80% up here, and now I get this to 80, well, guess what? Now the likelihood of the entire system producing fat loss is at 80%, right? Or I'm sorry, not 80%, because it's multiplicative. So it would be 80 times 80 times 80. So I'm still at 50%, right? 51%. To make these numbers a little bit simpler, now you see how much this piece affects everything, right? Now, if I can get this to 95, all of a sudden I've jumped up to 77%. Now, as you go about your going through working out and eating and getting better information, hiring coaches, you can get this to 99%, because if I, like I said, if I'm coaching you, I'm giving you the best information possible. Okay. Now, 99% times 99% gives you 98. But let's say we took our 40%, which, then the system's reliability is 39%. And let's say I get it up to 80%. Now I'm at 78% for the total system, the chance that I will produce fat loss. If I get this to 90%, right, I'm now up to 88%. If I get that to 95, right, now you see where I'm getting with this. And so it is so important to focus here, okay? And so I'm going to leave it at that. If that makes sense, let me know. If it doesn't make sense, let me know. In my opinion, nothing else matters unless you can dial this in. And once we dial this in, this becomes enjoyable. And by the way, if you take care of this, imagine how that affects your work. Imagine how that affects your relationships. Imagine how that affects just your overall engagement with life, because the human component is taken care of. Fitness and fat loss are not the only areas that people want to improve, right, that get affected by this. So yeah, we'll come back to this and continue to make it simpler and more concise, like I said. But this was my first initial thoughts on this. And it takes some time. It really takes time to kind of understand. And first, for us to be able to really communicate, we have to speak a shared language. We have to know what I mean when I say friction index. We have to know what I mean when I say system reliability. right? So it'll take, once we have this foundation of understanding and communication, now we can really start to make some big changes. So like I said, I'll continue to share more information about this, and we'll build on top of this. But the end goal is effortless and enjoyable fat loss in any situation. Okay. By the way, so this stuff is all these articles and stuff are on my Substack. If you just go to substack.com and search the strength method, you'll find all these. And I share a lot of different concepts and frameworks that I use to make, like I said, fat loss just something that is a given, like it's automatic, right? So we'll end it there. If you got questions, let me know.